What is going on, my game design gurus, and welcome to the Level Design Lobby. What is going on, everyone? I hope you're well, playing and or making the games that you love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears. How are you all doing? I hope you're all doing very, very well. It's while recording this, it's a very, very cold day in Poland. Bit of snow coming back. So yeah, very cold, and I'm wrapped up nice and warm while I'm talking to all of you. This is the 19th episode of the Level Design Lobby. I can't believe how many episodes there's actually been if you include the bonus episodes as well. It's been fun so far. I'm enjoying this one. Slight tangent there. So this episode is going to be a very cool one for different reasons, because I got to play a game recently. It's called Florence. It's for mobile devices. You can find it on iOS, or I believe by the time this episode is released, there will actually be an Android version out as well. It's about £2 to £3. I don't know what it is in euros, but I recommend checking it out. It is a really cool game. I'm going to explain to you why. So I got playing this game, Florence, and it got me thinking about things. If you've listened to the podcast before, in bonus episode 6, I think, I recommend a Gamma Sutra article interviewing the lead designer, Ken Wong, about the game. And this game got me thinking about emotional design in our mechanics. Now, us as designers and games creators, whether you are, no matter which department you're in, whether it be art, programming, animation, design, or anything, we all tend to try break things down into emotion and get the players to feel an emotion in a certain way. And we do this through the design choices that we make, or through what we show with the environment, the art style, or the set pieces. And Florence got me thinking about how we really push that from a mechanic point of view. Now we can frustrate and anger players pretty easily, whether it be by mistake of a design or the actual intent. We can do this. We can also make the players feel extremely powerful. You know, you're one person killing hundreds of people. That's a pretty badass move. Yeah, there's other emotions we as designers can create. And it's these other emotions I want to be talking to you about today, because Florence will be the main focus of this breakdown, but I'm going to be talking about other games as well, which I've seen use emotional design very, very well with mechanics, and we'll be breaking down a few. So first of all, the first section is going to be talking more about Florence, to be honest. Going to be talking what the kind of aim of the game and how they achieved this through certain things. And what I'm more impressed with the Florence, is that the input system they use. Because most games I play are on my PC, my PlayStation, Switch. I don't really play mobile games as much as I used to. Yeah, there's not been much that's attracts me in the mobile market. If you guys or girls do know any great mobile games, please let me know. Tweet me at Max Pears and I'll give them a look. But after reading the article on this, a link to that article will be linked down below, the interview with Ken Wong. It got me interested in checking out. Now, some of you may recognize his name because he worked at Us2 Games, making Monument Valley, which was a big breakout hit for iOS, both visually and as a puzzle game with its levels. And I played both of them, and I was a huge fan of them. And Ken worked on the first one before stepping out to create his new company, Mountain Games, with other great developers. And this is I believe it's their first game. So yes. Let's go talk about this, because, as I said, the input methods for mobile are very different. It's generally a touch screen, and what I really liked that they did right out the gate is I'm not a huge fan personally of virtual controls for mobile games, like a virtual analog stick, virtual buttons. The whole phone is one big input device. You can swipe up, down, left, right, tap, multiple tap, hold something, holds the screen down, and so much. I don't feel that we need to mimic, this is again my personal opinion, it won't apply to every game. I don't feel if you're making a game that you should mimic a controller, because the reason you come into mobile games, other than the convenience, it's quick to play compared to your console, you can take it out everywhere with you, is that it is different. So embrace that difference firstly. I think that was a very important one. So now, when we get into Florence, there is going to be some mild spoilers here, so if you don't mind, don't worry about it. I'm not going to spoil the main story because I don't want to do that. I just want to be talking about certain parts of it. So in Florence, you play the role of a woman named Florence in her mid-20s. She is in a job that she doesn't really enjoy, and this is an important part, is because they actually set this up first. So in the design of Florence, they actually set up how to make you feel the mundane life that she feels, these everyday bores that she is experiencing, and not only explaining or telling to you, the player, on how that she is bored, but showing you as well. And how they do this is really clever. So, as I said, this is about emotions. So the emotion we're going for is boring, being bored. So what do? Is they make you repeat these monotonous tasks over and over. For example, a grid will pop up with multiple numbers on it. It's your job to then basically find the two matching numbers, press them both, and it'll disappear. And you do this a few times. And again, you start to experience that. And then what happens is you do that, and then you see Florence continue, even once you've done it, showing that day in, day out, that this is what she's doing, this constant da-da, da-da, da-da. And you're not only seeing this, but you're actually feeling it. Because I don't know about any of you, I really am bad at maths. It's not my strongest point. Still got my good grades on it, but it's not my favourite subject in the world. But the fact that you're experiencing this alongside Florence is super important, because we could just say, like other games, she had a very boring job which she did not enjoy. Instead, what mountain games do is they take the time to allow you to experience that same feeling by giving this a task. So when creating emotion, break it down. What does that emotion mean? And I think one of the best ways to do this, I don't know if this is how mountain games did, but this is just a recommendation of how I think if you're doing a game based on emotion, create a spider diagram. If it is boredom, put that in the middle, and then start legging off, what does that mean to people? Repetitive tasks, no progression, constantly doing the same thing. And then you can start to explore how that actually is expressed with it. So I think that's really interesting, is how they've broken down this. Again, not just showing you how Florence feels, but making you experience that same pain as well. And another thing they do with this as well, because not only do they show the boredom of this, but they actually make you live her life for brief parts in time in the game, where, for example, you just brushing your teeth. Now, you might not think that's a huge deal, and I think I've played this 3 times over now, this game, to really make sure that I'm trying not to miss anything. And at first I was like, oh, this is cool. But what that's doing is it's making you actually relate to Florence, because you're seeing her brush her teeth, and not only that, are you seeing her, you're brushing her teeth for her. It makes it relatable because that's what you do as a person. Well, I hope you do. If you're not, go visit a dentist, probably. Oh, sorry peeps, I'm just getting a phone call. Allow me to take this. Sorry about that, everyone. As a friend of mine, Mo, we're just having a catch up. So I missed his call earlier this week, so sorry about that. But he's doing well for anyone who is concerned or interested. But now let's get back to the podcast. As I was saying, how they're creating this character and this way that they make you connect and relate to the character is all done through gameplay, such as a thing of brushing the teeth or the activity to feel bored by doing their job over and over and over. And one of the other interesting mechanics they do when they're doing the, as I mentioned earlier, this matching two of the numbers, is that then it turns into a clock, and you move the clock hands around, and it goes into minutes to hours, and you just see Florence doing the same thing over and over and over. And again, it gets the point across of, we've all seen this technique used in films where it stares the clock, and it's our hands are at 12. Next thing you know, it's at 7 or something, showing that passage of time, and not much has happened in that passage of time as well. So I think that's really interesting on how they all do this. And when you're trying to take advantage of an emotion, think about what makes that emotion. How do we as humans, not just yourself, but ask other people as well, how do they relate to that emotion? Now, this is a great setup, because what happens next is you meet your partner to be. You get your first encounter with your soon to be partner, Krish, and how they do this again is truly amazing. Because I won't spoil how you meet him, I'll just talk about something that they do that's very, very smart in terms of design for a first date. And I'm sure many of you, like myself, have been on I just want to let you people know that I have been on a date. Yeah. No. As many of us have been on, we have been on dates. And it's really interesting, because whether your date is going well or it's the very first one, you'll always notice that 9 times out of 10, it may not happen all the time, but there's either that awkward silence or that struggle at the beginning to find a flow of a conversation, to make sure you say, I guess, the right thing. And when I say the right thing, I mean an answer that's right to show who you are. And they do this in such a brilliant way, because and I think how they do it is amazing, because they really use traditional sort of comic technique, and they expand on this later, which I'll mention, is a speech bubble. But in order for you to say, because Krish will ask something, his speech bubble will pop up above his head, then it's up to you to reply. And how you do this is you have an outline of a speech bubble, and you have all these pieces. It's a puzzle to put together that speech bubble, like it is in your head when you're saying something, to make sure it is the right thing to say, to make sure that you don't say anything silly or embarrass yourself. And at first, it's something like 8 to 10 pieces of this speech bubble that you get, and it's a little puzzle. This goes there, make sure they all connect. And as the date progresses, the pieces become fewer. So, what started to be 10 has now gone down to 8 to 6 to 2 and now to 1. That there truly captures a feeling of a first date, because what it is showing is the nerves of making sure you say something right, but also seeing that when a date is going well, that the conversation becomes easier. It starts to flow much better. I think that there was one of the most nicest pieces of game design that I have seen in a long, long time. And I've been telling people to get this game, and I think that was one of the reasons why. The soundtrack's also amazing, and I'll touch upon that a little bit later. But just again, how they've broken down what a date is in a traditional sense, and then able to replicate that through their game design. And now how they expand upon it. Because because at one point, like, everyone, we're human, whether it's with your family, your partner, or someone else, a stranger. We're human, so we do get into arguments. So you find yourself as Florence, who gets into, an argument with Krish, and it's a similar technique now that they're using for you to get your stuff to argue. But the speech bubble, when you're on the first date, for example, all the pieces are soft and round. You know, it feels like a nice thing that's going to be said because the visual language is very appealing and soft and kind of welcoming. But when it comes to the argument now, the pieces to make the speech bubble, they are jagged. They are sharp, with really sharp corners and connectivity. It's not like a puzzle piece now. It's more like a knife overlapping with another knife to connect. And so when you say this as well, the camera now tilts compared to on a date where the camera was very flat. You two are on an equal playing ground. You're now fighting for more space on this camera. So when Krish says his point, he ends up being higher raised. The camera tilts, making him higher. And then when you say your points, it gradually makes you higher than him, and there's a back and forth between it, which again just makes this so brilliant. Truly an amazing thing here, how they took not only just an emotion on here and put it down as a gameplay for it, but they've also then built upon it and twisted it to make it something that represents more than just one ideal with this. How clever is that? It is truly an amazing thing there. There are other great things that they do within the game. I don't want to spoil it because if you've got a couple of pounds or euros or dollars, it's worth it. It's not the longest game, but trust me, from a game design standpoint, there is a lot to learn from Florence. So take that in from this here. You know, I was genuinely impressed. There are other things that I really want to break down and talk about, but I don't want to do it yet. I'd like to reach out to Ken or someone on the team just to ask them questions for the podcast. So we'll try to do that so that I don't spoil too much here. The ending is interesting. I do want to talk about that at some point. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well on the ending. But that's Florence. That to me was for sure one of the... So far, I mean, I know it's very early in the year, but to me it's one of the best designed games of the year thus far. And I recommend to any designer or developer to check this out. Really see this game because there's a lot to learn from this. So now that we've broken down how to create that sort of emotional connection through a relationship and stages, let's talk about a different one, another game which I think at this time, this is one of my favorite games of all time, and I was very fortunate to meet the director as well of this game and just tell him how much of an impact this had on me, this game. I didn't realize that when I was playing it when I was a teenager, the depth to one of its mechanics. And there's a great article on Gamma Sutra, and I think I've referenced this in narrative in games in episode 12. So go back a few. And the depth to this mechanic now, I've only just realized as I've been getting older and kind of understanding more of emotions through game design. And this to me is one of the best games for it there is. And that here, guys, is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. If you've not heard of it, Crisis Core is a prequel to one of the most acclaimed games of all time, which is Final Fantasy VII. It was released on episode... what was it? It was episode 5? Episode 5, sorry, what am I saying? It was released on PSP. How did I get to episode 5? I'm sorry, guys. Clearly, my head's not there because I'm emotionally still invested with Florence. As I was saying, this was released on the PSP, so it was reviewed extremely well and it was, I don't think it sold, I don't know, because obviously the PSP, I don't think its sales were great. But if you do ever get a chance to play Crisis Core, I strongly recommend it. It is one of my all-time favorite games. It's one that I like to play every now and then just to replay it. It's just got a lot. And now let's talk about how this actually designs for emotion. And what got me thinking about this was an article on Gamma Sutra written by Christian Nutt on one of the mechanics that we were talking about now, which is this mind wave mechanic, DMW, I believe it was called. And what it is while you're in combat, you have this kind of slot machine display on the top. Is it top left or top left corner of the screen? And what it has is either a picture, a profile shot of one of the characters you've met, or a silhouette of one of the characters that you're going to meet. And it's constantly just rolling all the way through. And when 3 of these characters match, it will trigger a cutscene of the character Zach's interaction with these other characters, and then either give you a level up, allow you to do a super move, or something like this. And now when I'm saying that to you, that might not sound like emotional design. And like I said, at first, it took me a while to understand the emotional design of this mechanic as well. But let's really break this down. So Zach Fair is a soldier for Shinra, and he goes on multiple missions. You know, he's quite young when we first encounter him at the beginning of the game, and it's set over a few years. I don't know the exact time frame, but we do see Zach grow up from being like an early adult till probably now into his like 30s to kind of a more mature man. And this here works on multiple ways. And let's break this down. So when you're Zach, you're traveling and you meet people who will actually impact your life, whether it just be for a short time, something they say or actions they do. That's part of growing up for us all. You know, you probably, not all the time, but you're probably going to leave your hometown at some point, and you're going to meet someone else where, if you're fortunate enough like myself, you'll move to different countries as well and see other cultures and meet different people along the way. And these people that you're going to meet are going to change the way that you think. They're going to open your mind to different things, whether it be someone you date or just a friend or a mentor. And that's really will have either a conscious or subconscious impact. So the fact that we're seeing these profiles of these people scroll through is something that's emotional, because we're seeing in Zach's psyche who actually has had an impact on him, on his life as an adult. So we're seeing people who've emotionally affected him to make him grow. Now that's cool. And then when you get all 3, before we do the power-ups, that little mini cutscene, especially in a battle, where you're going back to an important time, we all have memories. Memories are part of the journey of growing up in life. So for us to see this from Zach's perspective, we're now seeing things, because most of these cutscenes actually did not happen while you're playing the game, which is even more interesting that they've chosen to do that instead of doing a clip of the player's playthrough. They've got these set up pieces because we as the player, we may be taking on the role of Zach, but we'll never fully understand what these people have meant to him because we have those memories. And from time to time, we all have flashbacks. We all see something that makes us remember a certain someone or a certain time in our lives. So to see that again is what characterizes Zach and makes Zach feel far more human than some of the characters in video games, because it's building on that. We're seeing people that mean a lot to him. And then another thing that we have with this is this wave. So this mind wave where, for example, when Zach's heightened emotions are activated, it means that he's more than likely going to have quite a few, more than the average combat encounters matches the slot machine of the characters. So showing, again, that that's a heightened emotions where we all get emotional. And then this emotion spurs Zach on, spurs him to fight, to push harder than before, is incredible there. Because there are times when we are all struggling, we're not fighting monsters or slaying demons, but life does bring you down. I don't mean that to make anyone feel sad right now. But there are highs and lows of life. So when you have a memory or someone who is there and who genuinely cares for you, that you see like a memory of someone that you love, or for this case, who Zach loves, it makes him want to fight harder, as us having a memory of our loved ones would make us want to push through or get through that sad time. And it's such an interesting one. And I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler on the ending here. So it's been out for a while. I don't feel people should be mad if I do a spoiler. But if you do want to play Crisis Core and don't want a spoiler, best to skip ahead 5 minutes ahead or so, because I won't. We'll finish this. Now we're about to spoil things. At the end, in case you haven't played Final Fantasy VII as well, and you know that Zack dies, he sacrifices his life for Cloud, because he's trying to reach Aerith to see her again. And while he's doing this heightened emotion comes through, and you're constantly having these waves of cutscenes of interactions with the people that you've met along the way as Zack. And it's really building on that phrase of, when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. They've made that through the game here. And it's not just it's like a random mechanic. You've seen this mechanic grow all the way through. So we've not only met these people who've unlocked on our DMV, but we've seen memories of them as we've been fighting through the story. And then, sadly, it all comes flashing before his eyes as Zack dies. How interesting is that? It's not as, say, obvious as what I've mentioned earlier with Florence, like where that is trying to capture the literal sense of what a relationship is. But what this bar is doing is more of a subtle thing, more trying to capture the psyche and the emotions of how Zack is feeling when he is in combat, humanizing him. Like, he's risking his life and he's doing it because he's trying to protect the ones he loves. That there is one of the most amazing design mechanics, again, in my opinion, that I have a chance to see. I'm truly amazed by this one. It was a great one. And now for the final example I want to give when designing kind of an emotion or feel, you can't look past Ninja Theory's 2017 game. 2017? Yeah, 2017. We're on 2018. Sorry guys, where's my head at? 2017 game, Hellblade. This was a really cool game for many reasons, but the reasons we're talking about it is because I'm sure many of you have seen the behind the scene footage or the dev diaries when they're trying to make Senua and create her as a believable character that has mental psychosis and these sort of disabilities, for lack of a better word. They did a lot of research by sitting down with some professors and actual people who do suffer from these mental psychosis, and then after listening to the stories and the feelings and interviewing these amazing people, they then took it and tried to make it into, well, they made it into a gameplay mechanic. Like, for example, one of the best things and also most frustrating things they did, which I thought was made me love this game for a really good reason is because I think Senua suffers from schizophrenia. I could be wrong, but I believe it's multiple personality disorder. I believe she... I think it's this, but it's one of these where she hears a number of people's voices, multiple voices in her head. And the real sad part is although these voices actually sometimes can help and guide you, they also constantly put you down. Like, they make you feel bad about yourself. How these voices are used are so interesting because they're used to as a traversal guide to... Sometimes if the player's lost, they'll point things out in order for players to get back on track to guide the players. When the player is in combat and there is multiple enemies, if the player is sometimes about to be attacked from behind, you'll hear one of the voices say, "Look out," giving a player a hint to dodge before it's too late. But one of the things they did that was really, really amazing for me was when I was against one of the bosses. He's this crow-like one, and I was losing really bad, and there's nothing more frustrating when you're losing and knowing that there is a permadeath kickback on this game where if you die too much, it's game over. I was losing, and I had my headphones on. It was just me in my apartment playing it, and at first these voices were very helpful, and I don't know if this is the way they set it up, but this is how it came across to me. The voices were very helpful, and then as my health started to go lower and lower and lower and lower, the voice started to put me down. You know, I'm on my kind of like last quarter of health. The screen is flashing or whatever, and this guy is attacking me. I can't figure out how to counter or dodge his attacks, and all I'm hearing in my ears, and the voice seemed to get louder, was, "You're gonna die, you're failing, you're not good enough, he's better, you're not good enough," over and over, to a point where I had to pause the game and say, "Shut up." I wasn't saying that to anyone. I was saying that to these voices that were playing, which to me speaks wonders, because they captured, what I imagine what some of these people go through on a daily basis. And that is one of the best things as game designers we can do, is to truly portray that emotion correctly. There we have it, guys, on how to, hopefully, tips that have allowed you to understand how to design for emotions. Firstly, do the research, ask questions from people. What does this emotion mean to them? Or if it's something that you do not understand, interview the right people who are going through these emotions or mental states that you are trying to capture and portray correctly in your game. And then once you've done that, a personal tip for me is like break things. Sorry guys, I'm getting very popular now. First phone call, now this. And as I was saying, yeah, for me, I'd recommend doing a spider diagram. You know, that emotional feeling or whatever you're trying to capture in the middle, and then break off, what does that mean? Don't just do it yourself. Ask others as well, to if you can get 1 or 2 words from it. And then once you've got that, what can you do mechanically? What can you do with a controller or a phone, or if it's a keyboard or something, whatever input device you're using, how can you create that emotion that you're looking for? Don't be afraid to do these emotion, guys, because this is why games are so amazing. I know at this time, the White House released that video game reel of gore, and I don't want to talk about it on here because it's not what we want. This is a positive community, and it is a positive show, so we won't talk about it here. So what I recommend is people doing these things here. I know 2 of those 3 games we talked about had combat, but they still had an impact of emotions. Zack Fair is one of my favorite characters because of this machine on a subconscious level, this mechanic. Florence feels real to us because of we not only saw her life but lived it, and they capture those emotions. And Senua is one of the better characters in Ninja Theory who have captured what it is like to to have some of these disabilities and psychosis that people go through on a daily basis. So really do this, guys, and enjoy it, because emotions through designs, we can do so much more than just empowerment or rage. You all can do so much more. These are some of the best examples out there. Now, if you do have examples for me that you want to share, that you've seen a game do some really amazing emotional stuff, then you can get in contact with me by Twitter, which my Twitter handle is @MaxPairs. If you want to email me, then you can email me leveldesignlobby, all one word, @gmail.com. All of this will be in the description down below for you guys to access. Some of the articles I've referenced as well will be down below as well for you all to check out. If you are listening to me through a podcast app, then please do me a huge favor and rate this podcast 5 stars, because it helps grow and bring attention to this podcast so that we can all grow as well as a community. Because I'm feeling the community is only getting stronger after chatting to more and more of you recently, and seeing some of you reply to the comments that I haven't fortunately had the time to get round to. So again, this is an amazing thing to see this grow. If you are listening to me via the power of YouTube or SoundCloud, please subscribe so that you are constantly getting the updates and notifications and don't miss an episode. And the final thing I just want to mention is thank you all who are supporting the Patreon, because I hope you've all seen or you've noticed some of these updates recently, such as the new animation, if you watch on YouTube, of the actual animated logo, which is really cool. The new updated banners that'll be on such things as like my Twitter, SoundCloud, and a couple other places. We still are working on it for YouTube, because the Patreon has helped improve this, and it's helped me to bring on the associate producer of this podcast, which is Alex Partridge, who's also been working tirelessly to help bring up this quality. So I hope you all of you are noticing a level of quality now that we hadn't had before. And I just want to thank everyone who is currently supporting the Patreon. You all know who you are, because it's amazing to have you, and to be talking to you basically daily on the Discord server is fantastic. I really have enjoyed all of this. And if you are wanting to join the Patreon, there will be a link in the description below. There's some really cool stuff. We have webinars which happen every 2 months, as well as the level design weekend, where we have to create a level within a weekend, and then I'll review it and give feedback. So I just want to say thank you all again for supporting the Patreon, and please, more people come and join, because I believe you're going to get something out of this, and you can hopefully see, as I've said before, the quality of each episode being raised from this. That is it for this episode. It has been an absolute pleasure to do this. This was actually one of my favorite episodes to record. I love talking about this. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll catch you all next time.